instances of paranormal phenomena have been reported in this desolate place. Events that may reflect the area's tragic past.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Nature's Podcast, where we talk all things paranormal. I am Ken James, and this is fucking Jason McKittrick.
Oh, hey, folks.
If you can haunt out and dwell in the dark, you know we're talking about it.
We're talking about it.
And tonight, we're actually going to bring you another edition.
Fan favorite
of scary stories to tell in the dark. We're gonna, we're gonna read.
We're gonna read some more stories.
Yeah, read some more stories for you. Maybe we get into character a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, you know, it could get wacky. I don't know.
It could get wacky.
It could get wacky. People enjoyed our last episode. We went hard last time. Ken went real hard with his pirate voice. And
also the closing of the story at the end. I went, me, Ty Dodie Walker, I went full regalia, man.
You did?
I went gangbusters in that motherfucker.
Sure did.
And guess what?
What's that?
I'm doing it the same with a new story, with a different story this time.
Oh yeah, we got three each. You know, gonna have a good time. If you know, you're looking for ghost stories, it's not this episode. And if you want to hear us act like fools, that's this episode. Yeah.
And also, you want to hear some bangers.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can pack these up, take these home with you.
So I'll start off tonight.
Yes, you will, sir.
With the first story, my first selection in Volume 2 of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, brought to you by Other Dangerous Podcast. The White Wolf. The timber wolves around French Creek had gotten out of hand. There were so many wolves, the farmers could not stop them from killing their cattle and sheep. So the state put a bounty on them. It would pay a hunter $10 for every wolf pelt he turned in. A butcher in town named Bill Williams thought that was pretty good money. He stopped working as a butcher and started killing wolves. You know what? He was good at it. Every year he killed over 500 of them.
500?
That came to more than $5,000.
That's a lot of money in those days.
It was quite a bit of money in those days. After 4 or 5 years, Bill had killed so many wolves, there were hardly any left in that area. So he retired, and he vowed never to harm another wolf because wolves had made him rich. Then, one day, a farmer reported that a white wolf had killed 2 of his sheep. He had shot at it and hit it, but the bullets didn't have any effect. Soon, that wolf was seen all over the countryside, killing and running, but nobody could stop it. One night, it came into Bill's yard and killed his pet cow.
God damn it.
Bill forgot about his decision never to harm another wolf. He went into town the next morning and had bought a young lamb for bait. He took it out into the hills and tied it to a tree. Then he backed off about 50 yards and sat down under another tree. With his gun in his lap, he waited. When Bill didn't come back, his friends started looking for him. Finally, they found the lamb. It was still tied to a tree. It was hungry, but it was still alive. Then they found Bill. He was still sitting against the other tree, but he was dead. His throat had been torn open. But there was no sign of a struggle. His gun hadn't been fired, and there were no tracks in the soil around him. As for the white wolf, it was never seen again.
It's a wonderful story. I was enthralled.
Yeah. Ghost wolves.
Come on.
I'm here for it.
Come on. Come on, man. All right, Jason.
Kenneth.
My first reading this evening is The Viper. A widow lived alone on the top floor of an apartment house. One morning, her phone rang. "Hello?" she said. "This is the Viper," a man said. "I'm coming up." Somebody is fooling around, she thought, and hung up. A half hour later, the telephone rang again. It was the same man. "It's the Viper," he said. "I'll be up soon." The widow didn't know what to think, but she was getting frightened. Once more the telephone rang. Again it was the Viper. "I'm coming up now," he said. She quickly called the police. They said they'd be right over. When the doorbell rang, she sighed with relief. "They're here," she thought. But when she opened the door, there stood a little old man with a bucket and a cloth. "I'm the Viper," he said. "I'm here to wash and wipe the windows."
That son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. Classic. Classic.
Great job there, Ken.
Thanks, man. The Viper is one of those ones that, gives you a little relief. Because it's all so spooky in there. It's a scary place.
This is a scary world inside this book.
Yeah, and all those books, it's a scary fucking place.
It is.
And the Viper just gives you a little, like...
Yeah. Now, if we're any kind of genius or gentleman, we would have been telling this in the dark with the lights off, but that's fine.
Or with multicolor lights attached.
Next time. Wait till we get to the spooky season.
Yeah. We're figuring this out.
Now, going along into the vein of funny stories, I will also be doing a funny story. A lighthearted little jaunt by the name of Wait Till Martin Comes. An old man was out for a walk. When a storm came up, he looked for a place to take shelter. Soon he came to an old house. He ran up on the porch and knocked on the door, but nobody answered. By now, rain was pouring down, thunder was booming, and lightning was flashing. So he tried the door. When he found it was unlocked, he went inside. Except for a pile of wooden boxes, the house was empty. He broke up some of the boxes and made a fire with them. Then he sat down in front of the fire and dried himself. It was so warm and cozy he fell asleep. When he woke up, a black cat was sitting near the fire. It stared at him for a while, then it purred. That's a nice cat, he thought. And then he dozed off again. When he opened his eyes, there was a second cat in the room. But this one was as big as a wolf. It looked at him very closely and it asked, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the other cat. "Let's wait till Martin comes." I must be dreaming, thought the old man. He closed his eyes again. Then he took another look. By now there was a third cat in the room. And this one was as big as a tiger. It looked the old man over and asked, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the others. "Let's wait till Martin comes." The old man jumped up, jumped out the window, and started running. "When Martin comes, you tell him I couldn't wait," he called. The end. You alright?
That was one of my most favorite moments of history.
If you're not...
A+.
You wouldn't be aware, but in our home here with my wife and children, we do this shit to each other all day long with voices.
Ooh.
Like, Christina will be trying to do something serious, and I'll just come up right behind her and just do these, as you do.
Alright, gang. As I recover from my laughing fit, which that was A+, Jeff.
You're welcome.
This one's called The Man in the Middle. It was almost midnight. Sally Truitt had just gotten on the subway train at the 15th Street after visiting her mother. "Don't worry," Sally told her. "The subway is safe. There's always a policeman on duty." But that night, she didn't see one. Except for her, the subway car was empty. At 42nd Street, 3 tough-looking men got on. 2 of them were holding up the third, who looked drunk. His head rolled from side to side, and his legs refused to work. When they got him seated between them, his head came to rest on one of his shoulders. Sally thought he was staring at her. She buried her head in a book and tried not to notice. At 28th Street, one of the men stood up. "Take it easy, Jim," he said to the man in the middle, and he got off. At 23rd Street, Jim's other friend stood up. "You'll be fine," he said, and got off. Now the only ones left on the car were Jim and Sally. Just then, the train went around a sharp curve, and Jim pitched onto the floor at Sally's feet. When she looked down at him, she saw a trickle of blood on the side of his head, and just above it, a bullet hole.
They were trying to transport it. Do you think that was like a precursor to Weekend at Bernie's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where Weekend at Bernie's came from. They read this and they were like, how do we make this funny?
The second one's funnier because then there's the voodoo shit and he's actually
the dance,
when he's and then he's under the water like.
He's got the treasure with the arrow in his head.
A little known fact: the guy who plays Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's is the psychiatrist in Friday the 13th Part 7. Did you know that?
No, not off the top of my head. I didn't.
Now you do.
No, I do. It's logged in, Betty.
Yep.
Betty,
yep.
Buddy.
Whoa! Next up, we've got a little ditty. Little ditty about Jack and Diane. Known as Something Was Wrong. One morning, John Sullivan found himself walking along a street downtown. He could not explain what he was doing there, or how he got there, or where he had been earlier. He didn't even know what time it was. He saw a woman walking towards him and stopped her. "I'm afraid I forgot my watch," he said and smiled. "Can you tell me the time?" When she saw him, she screamed and ran. Then John Sullivan noticed that other people were afraid of him. When they saw him coming, they flattened themselves against a building or ran across the street to stay out of his way. "There must be something wrong with me," John Sullivan thought. "I'd better go home." He hailed a taxi, but the driver took one look at him and sped away. John Sullivan did not understand what was going on, and it scared him. "Maybe someone at home can come and get me," he thought. He found a telephone and called his wife, but a voice he did not recognize answered. "Is Mrs. Sullivan there?" he asked. "No, this is a funeral," the voice said. "Mr. Sullivan was killed yesterday in an accident downtown."
It's wonderful. All right, gang. My second to last here.
What is it, One Fine Day?
It's One Fine Day. This is called One Sunday Morning. Ida always went to 7 o'clock Sunday morning service at her church. Usually, she heard the clanging of church bells while she was eating breakfast, but this morning, she heard them while she was still in bed. That means I'm late, she thought. Ida jumped out of bed, quickly dressed, left without eating or looking at the clock. It was still dark outside, but it usually was dark at this time of year. Ida was the only one on the street. The only sound she heard was the clatter of her shoes on the pavement. Everybody must already be in church, she thought. Ida took a shortcut through the cemetery. Then she quietly slipped into the church and found a seat. The service had already begun. When she caught her breath, Ida looked around. The church was filled with people she had never seen before. But the woman next to her looked familiar. Ida smiled at her. It's Josephine Kerr, she thought. But she's dead. She died a month ago. Suddenly, Ida felt uneasy. She looked around again. Her eyes began to adjust to the dim light. Ida saw some skeletons in suits and dresses. This is a service for the dead, Ida thought. Everybody here is dead except me. Ida noticed that some of them were staring at her now. They looked angry, as if she had no business being there. Josephine Kerr leaned toward her and whispered, "Leave right away, and leave right after the benediction if you care for your life." When the service came to an end, the minister gave his blessing. "The Lord bless you and keep you," he said. "The Lord make his face to shine upon you." Ida grabbed her coat and walked quickly towards the door. When she heard footsteps behind her, she glanced back. Several of the dead were coming toward her. Others were getting up to join them. "The Lord lift up his countenance to you," the minister went on. Ida was so frightened she began to run. Out the door she ran, with a pack of shrieking ghosts at her heels. "Get out!" one of them screamed. Another shouted, "You don't belong here!" and ripped her coat away. Ida ran through the cemetery. A third grabbed her hat and from her head. "Don't come back!" it screamed, and shook it off her head. By the time I had reached the street, the sun was rising and the dead had disappeared. Did this really happen? Ida asked herself. Or have I been dreaming? That afternoon, Ida's friends brought over her coat and hat, or what was left of them. They had been found in the cemetery, torn to shreds.
Wait, so the church that she went to was filled with
ghosts?
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Next up are this evening's selections. Ooh, did you hear that thunder outside?
Yeah.
Hear the rain against the window panes?
Yeah.
Perfect night for some scary stories. To tell in the dark. 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 The Curse.
Oh.
My dad's friend, Charlie Potter, was a small, nervous man who was always looking around as if he was in some kind of danger. Some kind of other danger.
Oh.
After he told me the story about his college fraternity, I understood why.
Yeah.
This frat doesn't exist anymore, he said. It was banned years ago. We just had 9 members at that point, and we're taking in 2 more, Jack Lawton and Ernie Kramer. One night in January, just about this time of year, the 9 of us took them out into the country for their initiation. Initiation. We took them to an old deserted house where 2 young men about our age had been murdered recently. Their murderer was still at large. We gave Jack a lighted candle and told him to go up to the 3rd floor. Stay there for an hour, we told him. Then come back down. Don't speak. Don't make any noise. If your candle goes out, carry on in the dark. From where we were standing, we could see the light from Jack's candle moving up the stairs to the 2nd floor, then to the 3rd. But when we got to the 3rd floor, his candle went out. We guessed that he had come to a drafty corner, and the wind blew it out. But when the hour went by and he didn't come down, we weren't so sure. We waited another 15 minutes and got more and more nervous.
You just delivered on 15. 15 you delivered on.
So we sent Ernie Kramer up after him. When Ernie got to the 3rd floor, his candle also went out. We waited 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but there was no sign of either of them. Come on down, we called, but they didn't answer. Finally, we decided to go and get them. Armed with flashlights, we started up the stairs. It was as quiet and dark as a grave in that house. When we got to the 2nd floor, we called out again, but there was no answer. When we got to the 3rd floor, we walked into a great big open space, like an attic. Jack and Ernie weren't there, but we saw footprints in the dust. These led to a room on the other side of the attic. That room was also empty, but there was fresh blood on the floor.
Oh no.
And the window was wide open. It was about 25 feet to the ground, but there was no ladder or rope in sight that they could have used to get down. We searched the rest of the house and the land around the house and found nothing. We decided that they were playing a trick on us. Sons of bitches. We figured that in some way they had escaped through the window and were hiding in the woods. The blood on the floor was to throw us off the track. We guessed they'd show up the next day with a lot of stories and a lot of laughs, but they didn't. The next day, we told the Dean of Men what had happened, and he reported it to the police. The police didn't find anything either, and after several weeks, the search ended. To this day, no one knows what happened to Jack Lawton and Ernie Kramer. There isn't much more to tell, he said. We weren't arrested, but the college disbanded the fraternity and suspended the 9 of us from school for a year. The strangest part came after we graduated. Someone must have placed a curse on us. Every year since then, around the time of that initiation, one of us has died or gone crazy. I'm the only one left, he said, and I'm in pretty good health, but there are times when I feel just a little peculiar. Ah!
I forgot about that. Whoa. All right. Shit, get my camera. What did I get? Ugh. Ooh.
All right, Ken, bring it home.
Fuck, I don't even...
What?
That was magnificent.
Oh,
I don't know if I got it.
You got it.
You were killing me with your like 15 minutes. Like you were dropping
Something like an attic.
Yeah, right. That fucking killed me. This something like an attic. You looked right in my eyes. So this is our longest one. Folks, I'm gonna do my best. That was a hard act to follow.
Take us home, Country Road.
I want to preface this with the fact that there was a point where this story scared me so much, and I used to sleep on my brother's floor, and he would leave his bedroom door open.
Yeah.
That the picture in this book,
it's like a ghost woman.
It's a ghost woman.
Yeah.
I literally saw it in the doorway.
It'll happen.
I projected it. It wasn't. It was. But it was like. But I made it real, not just like a drawing.
Oh yeah. I told you that one time when I watched that sighting show for the first time. Yep. I literally heard those EVPs. I heard them.
Yeah, right.
In the middle of the night.
Right.
Crazy.
This story is called Clinkety Clink.
Get it, girl.
An old lady got sick and died. She had no family and no close friends. So the neighbors got a gravedigger to dig a grave for her. They had a coffin made. They placed it in her living room. As was tradition, they washed her body and dressed her up in her best clothes and put her in the coffin. When she died, her eyes were wide open, staring at everything and seeing nothing. The neighbors found 2 old silver dollars on her dresser, and they put them on her eyelids to keep them closed. They lit candles and sat up with her so that she would not be too lonely on that first night that she was dead. The next morning, a preacher came and said a prayer for her. Then everybody went home. Later, the gravedigger arrived to take her to the cemetery and bury her. He stared at the silver dollars on her eyes, and he picked them up. How shiny and smooth they were. How thick and heavy. They're beautiful, he thought. Just beautiful. He looked at the dead woman with her eyes wide open. He felt she was staring at him, watching him hold her coins. It gave him a creepy feeling. He put the coins back on her eyes just to keep them closed. But before he knew it, his hand reached out again and grabbed the coins and stuck them in his pocket. Then he grabbed a hammer and quickly nailed the lid of the coffin shut. "Now you can't see anything," he said to her. Then he took her out of the cemetery, and he buried her as fast as he could. When the gravedigger got home, he put the 2 silver dollars in a tin box and shook it. The coins made a cheerful rattling sound, but the gravedigger wasn't feeling so cheerful. He couldn't forget those eyes that were looking at him. When it got dark, a storm came up, and the wind started blowing. It blew all around the house. It came through the cracks and around the windows and down the chimney. Bazoo, zoo, 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 it went. Bazz, bazz, bazoo, zoo, zoo, zoo. The fire flared and flickered. The gravedigger threw some fresh wood on the fire, got into bed, and pulled the blankets up to his chin. But the wind kept blowing. Bazoo, zoo, 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 it went. Bazz, bazz, bazoo, zoo, zoo, zoo. The fire flared and flickered and casted an evil-looking shadow on the walls. The gravedigger lay there, thinking about the dead woman's eyes staring at him. The wind blew stronger and louder. The fire flared and flickered, and popped and snapped, and he got more and more scared. Suddenly, he heard another sound. Clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink, it went. Clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink. It was the silver dollars rattling in the tin box, Jay. "Hey!" the gravedigger shouted. "Who's taking my money?" But all he heard was the wind blowing. And the flames flaring and flickering and snapping and popping, and the coins clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink. He leapt out of bed and chained up the door. Then he hurried back, but his head had barely touched the pillow when he heard a clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink. Then he heard something way off in the distance. It was a voice crying, "Where's my money? Who's got my money? Who?
Who indeed?
Who?" And the wind blew. Then the fire flared and flickered and snapped and popped, and the money went clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink. The gravedigger was really scared. He got out of bed again, and he piled all the furniture against the door, and he put a heavy iron skillet over the tin box. Then he jumped back into bed, covered his head with the blankets. But the money rattled louder than ever, and way off a voice cried, "Give me my money! Who's got my money? Who? Then the wind blew, and the fire flickered, and it flickered, and it snapped and popped, and the gravedigger shivered and shook and cried, "Oh, Lordy, Lordy!" Suddenly, the front door flew open, and in walked the ghost of the dead woman with her eyes wide open, staring at everything and seeing nothing. And the wind blew, bazooz, 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 and the money went clinkety-clink, and the fire flared and flickered, and snapped and popped, and the ghost of the dead woman cried, "Oh, where's my money? Who's got my money? Ooh, and the gravedigger moaned, "Oh, Lordy, Lordy." The ghost could hear the money going clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink in the tin box, but her dead eyes couldn't see the box. So she reached out with her arms and tried to find it. The wind blew and went bazooz, bazooz, and the money rattled clinkety-clink, clinkety-clink, and the fire flared and flickered and snapped and popped, and the gravedigger shivered and shook and moaned, "Oh, Lordy, Lordy." And the woman cried, "Give me my money. Who's got my money? Who? You've got it."
I do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What have you?
It's 2 silver.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, thanks, man. Bink. No, he doesn't have it.
This fucking asshole.
I tried to.
I loved it, buddy.
It was
into it.
Yeah, man. We can't do what's his name, Irving, the guy who narrated the books on tape.
Oh, that guy. I heard.
Heaton Cold Miser.
I heard some of it in there. His reading of that is bonkers.
Yeah, he's like bazoo is what he did. I try to do my own flair.
Too long. Next time. We'll do a round 3.
Next time.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this round 2 of Scary Stories. This was really just for me and Ken to blow off steam from the last 2 months.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's been a while, and then we're starting, we're here with cameras, and we're trying to, we're building it. We're finally in People Like Studios.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was hugely important to me, just as it was for Ken.
Right.
The illustrations inside were,
monumental.
Yeah. I mean, I've said in the previous episode, it's literally the reason I became an artist, because I was like, if an image can do that, I gotta try.
Right, and for me, it's like those images alone. It's like, as a 3-year-old, my grandpa could chase me around with them open, and to overcome that fear and be a functioning adult.
Yeah. How's that going? Almost there.
It works sometimes.
Okay.
It gets good. It gets good at times. But reading the stories now,
it's just fun times.
It is fun times. And hey, man, welcome to our first video episodes. We're starting these out. You know,
this is just the beginning of it. We're gonna mess with the lighting, have some fun stuff. I'm sure we'll have some costumed episodes. I'm sure Halloween we'll probably get a costumed episode. Oh yeah. So, but yeah, buddy, that's Scary Stories Part 2 for
Part 2
podcast.
Yeah. Well, I guess all I can say is for this episode of Other Dangerous Podcast, I'm Ken James.
And I'm Jason McKittrick.
And as always, have a spooky evening.
Spooky.
Thank you for listening to Other Dangerous Podcasts. Have you encountered the other dangers? If so, you can email us at otherdangerouspodcast@gmail.com. And if you'd like to have a discussion about the paranormal, you can find us at Other Dangerous Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. There you can find submitted pictures, videos, and artwork from listeners. We are now streaming on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else podcasts are streamed. And after listening, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you the other dangers.